Happy Friday. After President Obama's State of the Union address this year, do you remember that there were two official Republican responses to him? I mean, actually, it was only on CNN were there two different official Republican responses. You had President Obama's State of the Union address before a joint session of Congress. Then you had the official Republican response from Paul Ryan, the congressman from Wisconsin. And then you had what CNN billed as another official Republican response, a speech by Michelle Bachmann. So it was the president's address, then the Republican response, and then only on CNN, another official Tea Party Republican response from Congresswoman Bachmann. It was not actually an official response. The Republican Party was not doing two official responses. That would be insane. There was no way in which this was an official State of the Union night speech, except for the fact that CNN called it that. I'm still amazed that CNN did this. They never really apologized for it, doing it or justified it, but they did it. And in the end, they did get exactly what they deserved for doing it, which is that this is what it looked like when they aired that fake official speech that night.
Good evening. My name is Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann from Minnesota's 6th District. I want to thank the Tea Party Express and Tea Party HD for inviting me to speak this evening.
It's only airing on CNN. CNN was the only broadcast network that put this on TV. And Michelle Bachmann is not at all looking at their camera. So it seemed like that night, we didn't know why Michelle Bachmann was looking off at the wrong camera. Maybe it was just a Michelle Bachmann crazy eyes thing. Later, it turned out that the reason she wasn't looking at the CNN camera, even though CNN was billing this as an official response to the State of the Union, was because she was actually looking into a camera from something called Tea Party HD. Tea Party HD, a fake TV network for the Tea Party. Tea Party HD today was the subject of a lawsuit in Tennessee. A group of investors who collectively sunk nearly $300,000 into this scam, claiming in their filing that, quote, the alleged purpose of Tea Party HD was to be the world's first HD provider of news about the Tea Party. In reality, it was an investment scheme to defraud politically conservative-minded citizens who support the Tea Party mission. One of the people who alleges he was defrauded in this Tea Party HD TV scam, which proves it's not just Nigerian princes you have to watch out for, one of these guys was also involved in one of the other great Tea Party scams. Do you remember the for-profit $549 a ticket self-proclaimed official Tea Party national convention thing in Nashville a couple of years ago? One of the guys who was scammed in the Tea Party TV thing sued over that, too, because he said he put up $50,000 for the Sarah Palin speaking fee at that event, which is only half of what she got paid. He says he put up half Palin's $100,000 speaking fee, and he didn't end up getting whatever it was that he was promised in exchange for that money. If you are now getting confused about all of the different ways that conservative scam artists have been ripping off suckers through Tea Party branding, don't worry, I'm here to help. Tea Party HD was the wrong camera that Michelle Bachmann was staring into. That's the one that allegedly defrauded its investors, according to this lawsuit in Tennessee today. Tea Party Nation was the scam $550 a ticket for-profit convention that Sarah Palin got paid $100,000 to give a speech at. And it's Tea Party Express that does the giant vinyl-wrapped luxury bus tours. Incidentally, CNN also got in bed with those guys. CNN co-sponsored a debate with them earlier this year. Here's the scam for the bus tour guys. Tea Party Express was a bus tour launched by a Republican political consultant named Sal Russo. Sal Russo raised lots and lots of money from Tea Party supporters under the Tea Party Express banner. Money that, thanks to some careful reporting from websites like Talking Points Memo, we later found out went mostly back into old Sal Russo's pockets, specifically into the pockets of his consulting firm, Russo Marsh, and other for-profit firms affiliated with him. So raising Tea Party donations and then spending all those Tea Party donations on themselves. That's Tea Party Express. CNN sponsored a debate with those guys. What? CNN aired the Tea Party Express Michelle Bachmann staring into the wrong camera speech on State of the Union night and called it something official, and then sponsored a debate with the Tea Party Express vinyl-wrapped bus tour Give Us All Your Money organization. CNN, the most trusted name in falling for Tea Party scams and getting your audience to fall for them, too. Here's the thing, though. The big vinyl-wrapped bus scam people, the Tea Party Express people, that scam where you raise money from people who think they're donating to a cause, but they're actually just giving you money to spend on yourself, that scam is not just for the Tea Party bus tour people. That's also, roughly speaking, that's the big Newt Gingrich scam. And so that scam is the biggest news today in Republican presidential politics, because as you have probably heard by now, we are in the middle of the promised Newt Gingrich presidential surge. A new poll out today by CBS showing Newt Gingrich climbing all the way up to second place, tied with Mitt Romney. Actually, Don't Know, right down there at the bottom, is really in second place. Don't Know is now polling better than both Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich. Also, Someone Else placing fourth in this poll ahead of all the other Republican candidates. But the dynamic here at work is this. Herman Cain is now, in this poll at least, the sole national frontrunner. Be still in my heart. But his numbers are softening. Herman Cain's support among women, for example, has fallen from 28% last month to 15% this month. So Herman Cain losing support among women. Duh. But interestingly, Mitt Romney losing support among men. Why is that? Actually, I have no idea why that is. But look at Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich is tied with Mitt Romney for second place in this poll. A new poll out today by Marist and McClatchy shows Gingrich alone in second place, trailing Mitt Romney by just 4 points. But overall, Newt Gingrich's poll numbers are sort of heading in an upward direction right now. I mean, they started at nil, but are pointing up. As Rick Perry has self-immolated, and as we are all watching the art project known as Herman Cain basically self-immolate as well, it's not surprising that the beleaguered Republican primary voters of this year will turn to yet another candidate begging them to please not be Mitt Romney. They've gone through this with Donald Trump now, and Michelle Bachmann, and Rick Perry, and Herman Cain. We sort of expect them to do this with everybody in the field. I mean, except for Rick Santorum. Nobody's going to vote for Rick Santorum. Come on. But the idea of a Newt Gingrich surge is almost as absurd as people Googling Rick Santorum and saying, hey, I like what I found here. I'm going to vote for this guy. I mean, even if you know nothing else about Newt Gingrich, what is the other notable thing that's happened to Newt Gingrich since he's been running for president this year? What's the one other thing? Back in June, right? Remember? Gingrich staff resigns. Gingrich presidential campaign implodes. Gingrich to forge ahead after campaign staff quits. Gingrich campaign staff resigns en masse. Newt Gingrich's senior staff staged a mass exodus off the good ship Newt Gingrich this summer. Why? Well, according to ABC News at the time, senior staffers demanded that Gingrich focus on pressing the flesh and fundraising, and that he stop touring the country promoting film projects with his wife. At one point, Gingrich was so focused on film premieres and book signings, one senior staffer emailed the team, quote, "We didn't sign up to be hucksters for products for sale." This was sort of a bombshell when it happened. Everybody sort of thought that would be the end of Newt. But there's also the question at the time of what exactly did those staffers expect from Newt Gingrich? I mean, this is Newt Gingrich we're talking about. With Mr. Gingrich, you kind of should have known what you were getting into. You should have known, say, on December 7th of last year, otherwise known as Pearl Harbor Day, Newt Gingrich commemorating Pearl Harbor Day last year by tweeting, quote, "The 69th anniversary of the Japanese attack is a good time to remind folks of our novels, Pearl Harbor and Days of Infamy. Pearl Harbor, Schmerl Harbor, buy my book." If that didn't make it clear enough, perhaps they should have known a few weeks later when Newt Gingrich used the occasion of Christmas to launch the Gingrich Productions 12 Days of Christmas Presents list. Get all of your Christmas shopping done at gingrichproductions.com. Newt Gingrich exists in this world to sell Newt Gingrich-related products. He is a one-man book and DVD empire, and he would very much like you to please buy every single one of them. Thank you very much. Buy them in multiples. They make nice gifts. You like Pearl Harbor? We've got Pearl Harbor. You like Reagan? We've got Reagan. You like the Pope? We've got the Pope. We got lots of Pope. We take cash, checks, money orders, credit cards, debit cards, you name it. How about gold? Since Newt Gingrich left Congress 13 years ago under a cloud of fundraising ethics charges, Mr. Gingrich has essentially been very busy making himself very rich by taking conservative suckers' hard-earned money. My favorite was the Newt Gingrich fake awards scam. One of Newt's many enterprises, this one called American Solutions, would blast fax businesses, seemingly at random, and tell them they were winners of Newt Gingrich's Entrepreneur of the Year award. All this business had to do to claim its award was send American Solutions a check for $5,000. The whole Newt Inc. empire is basically kind of a fundraising scam. In 2010, that American Solutions Group raised $14.5 million. Then they turned around and they spent $13.8 million of the $14.5 they raised. What they spend all of that money on? Well, they hired vendors, such as the Gingrich Group, run by a gentleman named Newt Gingrich. So Newt Gingrich is being paid to administer the Newt Gingrich fundraising empire, which spends a large amount of the money it raises on Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich is really good at raising money from people who think they are donating to a cause, when really the money raised just goes to Newt. It is the same scam as the Tea Party Express. It is a scam. It is a scam. If you get anything in the mail or in your email or on the Twitter from Newt Gingrich, check for your wallet. But now, since everybody gets a turn in the Republican primary this year, everybody except Rick Santorum, Newt Gingrich gets to be tied with Mitt Romney this week. Everybody gets a turn. And even as Mr. Gingrich luxuriates in the inevitable Newt surge, he cannot stop himself even now. He cannot stop himself even now. He cannot make himself seem less scammy even now, even in his moment in the spotlight.
I recently wrote a book called A Nation Like No Other, designed to deal with American history. We recently made a movie called A City Upon a Hill that explains the origins of American exceptionalism. I wrote a book in 2002 called Saving Lives and Saving Money, and I outlined what we could do.
Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich is running, as we all know, for the Republican nomination for president. He's also the author of the new book called The Battle of the Craters.
I should say, by the way, brief commercial. Callista couldn't be here because she's at a bookstore in Dubuque signing her new book, which is called Sweet Land of Liberty, which is for 4 to 8-year-olds.
It's not like we had to scroll through, hours of tape of Newt Gingrich talking for the last few years. We just checked the last couple of weeks. I mean, this is what he does. What's Newt Gingrich up to on the campaign trail right now? Well, yesterday his big campaign event was a book signing in Michigan. Today, even as he's opening up his big campaign headquarters in New Hampshire, there's a big shout out at the headquarters opening from Newt today. Big shout out today to his novels about the Civil War. They're available on Amazon or at the Gingrich Productions website. It is a scam. It is a scam. It is a scam. We are all looking into the wrong camera here. Joining us now is Steve Kornacki, political news editor at Salon.com. Steve, it's good to see you.
You too.
How do you think that Newt Gingrich will perform in the early primaries? Do you think this is a permanent surge?
Well, it's interesting. It's like the political equivalent of the producers, I think. It's this thing that starts working in spite of how it was designed and conceived, because this was, I think, definitely, a money-making venture from the beginning, and it still is a money-making venture. However, the Republican field is so unbelievably weak this year. There is such a strong desire among the Republican base not to sign on with Mitt Romney, and yet they have no other choice. And what are they doing this year? They're watching debates in larger numbers than ever. We're getting 5, 6, 7 million people watching these debates. And Newt Gingrich actually has the perfect training for how to handle these debates, because he gets to be a pundit. That's what he's been for the last 10 years. He stepped down as speaker, he was out of politics, and he's a cable news personality now. And he's not treated like a serious candidate at these debates because everybody kind of knows the scam is going on. So he gets to be a pundit who's never challenged, never asked tough follow-up questions, and he kind of bloviates, and it sounds very compelling. And in the absence of any alternatives, people start coming to him. But I'll say, if it gets to the point where the numbers get to 20, 25, 30%, and some of his opponents, and more importantly, the media start saying, well, this is getting a little serious, then I think we're going to have a repeat of what we saw earlier this spring, when there was that 2-week period, I would say, when people actually considered Gingrich a serious candidate, and he got a serious interview on Meet the Press, and he contradicted himself wildly, and he argued against the Paul Ryan plan, and he called it socialism. And 2 days later, he went out to Iowa, and there was that horrible scene where the Republican voter came up to him and said, "You're a disgrace."
Right.
I think that happens again if they start taking him seriously.
My favorite sort of denouement of all that was when he said, "If you quote me, you are lying." That he knows. Like,
and he will go to every district in the country next fall, and he will say that, and every Republican would welcome them.
Well, I mean, this is turning out to be a sort of an interesting political science exercise, in that we get to see the same pattern happen with all sorts of different failing Republican candidates. So we had a Donald Trump moment, we had a Michelle Bachmann moment, we had a Rick Perry moment, we did have a Newt Gingrich moment, which I think I had mostly forgotten about. We have had our Herman Cain moment that seems to maybe be ending, although who knows? Do they all follow the exact exact same pattern, wherein they get attention and appreciation but no scrutiny until they get enough attention and appreciation that they have to get scrutiny, and then the scrutiny is what kills them?
It seems to be, because if you look at all these previous examples, you can kind of point to a moment where each one really kind of, hit the peak and collapsed. With Trump, it was when the birtherism really just exploded in his face and it all reached, critical max. I think with Michelle Bachmann, it was partly Rick Perry getting in the race and just stealing her thunder, but it was also kind of the HPV stuff. And when even Rush Limbaugh turned on her, for saying this vaccine is going to make your children retarded. With Herman Cain now, if it happens, it's the sexual harassment. It's tough to gauge the impact of the attacks on the 999 plan because the sexual harassment stuff came so quickly. But I think it's, there's this sort of cable news universe, this Fox News universe that's really, it's like a closed information loop on the Republican side now that's really emerged in the last decade. And it allows for these characters to sort of come into existence and to flourish. And they don't actually have to do anything significant with their public lives. They don't have to be in office. They don't have to pass laws. They don't have to have any real driving policy roles. They're characters. And that's what we've really seen this year, is each character has got a shot. And then when each character gets treated briefly like a candidate, they fizzle. Except, Mitt Romney's still just sitting there.
And so, but that's the big question. Does this apply to Mitt Romney as well? I mean, Mitt Romney has essentially been running for president permanently for definitely longer than people have known what Herman Cain's name is.
Right.
But for longer than this iteration of the Newt Gingrich direct mail scam, certainly. I mean, because he is a permanent candidate and people are used to him in that role. Is his character the candidate, and so that makes him the last one standing?
Yeah, I think the model that I have in mind for how this is going to shake out in the end is sort of what happened, how Bob Dole got the nomination in 1996. And it was sort of similar in that, he was the guy nobody really wanted to nominate. He was boring old Bob Dole. He was moderate and everything. But there was really no alternative. And what happened was it took Pat Buchanan winning the New Hampshire primary in 1996 to scare the bejesus out of the Republican Party and say, we don't know. Pat Buchanan is never going to win anything again in this party, and now it's time to get on board with Bob Dole. And then within 2 weeks, he basically had won everything. I think that might be what we're moving towards here. I mean, there's a scenario where Romney could maybe win Iowa, but I think, listen, if it's Gingrich, if it's Cain, if it's Perry, if somebody can beat Romney in one of these early contests, I think we get that reaction, and the Republicans get their act together, and that's when it ends.
I agree with you, except I think my only tweak on that would be that I think once that happens, then Mitt Romney announces that bejesus is going to be his vice presidential
It's a winner.
Steve Kornacki, Salon's news editor. It's always great to have you here, Steve. Thanks.
Sure.